KFAN.
Give me half the money you were going to bet, and we'll go out back, I'll kick you in the nuts, and we'll call it a day.
Can you repeat the part of the stuff where you said all about the things?
It's a covenant cleanup.
Personal foul. Clipping. No!
Hey, have a seat for a second.
Hold on to your butts.
Good morning and welcome to the Friday Football Feast. It's a feast at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center. That is your facility home for the Minnesota Vikings. And this 9 to noon radio show today, well, it is a tale of banks.
With the 18th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Minnesota Vikings select Caleb Banks, defensive end, Florida.
It's a tale of banks and a beat.
Austin's really been good this year on the broadcast, especially when he's at the end of the bench. Robbie Hummel, former Timberwolf. Jokic fires on a three. That climbs off. Naz Reid, terrific rebound. Here comes Bones, a little pace, a little purpose. Crossover. Spencer Jones almost went down. Now Rudy. Bones going to pop on a deep straightaway. Three and hit it! Give me the Skelly Selly!
It is a tale of banks and a beat down.
4 times last year, Denver was held under 100. The horn will sound here at Target Center of the Wolves. Lose game 1, but they come storming back to take games 2 and 3. A wire-to-wire victory here at Target Center.
Welcome to 9 to noon. Nordo produces, and I'm Paul Allen. We're in Eagan, Minnesota, at the Minnesota Vikings facility, Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center. Brett Blakemore is guiding the great ship Love Covenant from FM 100.3 KFAN. And today's show is largely made up of Caleb Banks talkers and that beatdown that took place at Target Center last night. Quite the festive evening in Erotic City in Minneapolis last evening. The Timberwolves have taken a 2-1 series lead over a toothless Denver Nuggets team, at least for last night. And Caleb Banks, a defensive lineman from Florida, much to the surprise of many, was the 18th overall pick for the Minnesota Vikings. And coming up later on the radio show, the acting general manager, Rob Brzezinski, will be joining us here at TCO PC. Yeah, you know we. And we expect a Minnesota Vikings defensive coach of some sort to be joining us in the final hour of the radio show. They will be preceded by the likes of Alec Lewis from The Athletic and TheAthletic.com, Pete Bursich, analyst for the vast and ever-expanding Minnesota Vikings KFAN audio network, and the Vox of all Voxes, ever to Vox, Alan Roach, is in Pittsburgh. He's voxing the NFL draft, and he will share what that scene was like at about 9:40 today. Banks and a beatdown. Let's begin with the football portion of the equation. The Minnesota Vikings don't make that pick on a defensive tackle, defensive lineman Caleb Banks, unless they have absolute 10 of 10 trust in their team doctors and a man named Tyler Williams, who is the vice president of player health and performance. And they one of their team doctors is nationally renowned, if not world renowned, as a foot specialist, and that definitely played into their discernment during a night last night, where, as we shared from U.S. Bank Stadium, the palatial purple paradise, a lot of the draft and much of the first round of the draft was a draft of medical discernment, and New Orleans did its work, or at least it feels it did, with the likes of wide receiver Jordan Tyson. So they select him 8th. Likewise for the Minnesota Vikings with Caleb Banks and some foot-related terrorism. Thus, they take him at 18. But as we shared yesterday, 9 to noon, a very, very talented corner for Tennessee named Jermod McCoy. He was widely anticipated to be a top 15, top 20-ish type pick. Didn't even get taken in the first round because of a knee situation that has a lot of people scared. And there's a tight end for Vanderbilt named Eli Stowers, who's a game changer, but he has a shoulder situation that has a lot of people scared. So he was supposed to go, according to insiders, somewhere near the end of the first round, early second round, which will begin later. And we will see if there is a slide with him. But the drafting discernment regarding the medicals can be a tricky figure sometimes. Having complicit trust with your not only your staff but your sport, your health, performance staff, and of course your team doctors with Twin Cities Orthopedics. That absolutely led to the selection of Caleb Banks, and the belief here, without talking to Brian Flores, defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings, is you don't draft Caleb Banks unless two things take place. We talked about the medicals, but the defensive coordinator has to absolutely love him. And what he would love, I would imagine, would be what he saw from the 2024 season. Then Banks, he missed all but 3 games last year. And in a strange twist, he was at the Senior Bowl, and he was performing at the Senior Bowl. He went through the week of practices and everything, and Senior Bowl's done. He's doing interviews. People are trying to figure out what to do with the feet from the 2025. Then he gets to the combine and, freakishly speaking, breaks his foot. Supposedly, according to some reports, and I think one of them might have been tied to the Vikings, that somewhere in early June is when he should be fully cleared to start doing things to try to get ready for the 2026 season. So Banks and a beatdown, more from the Banks standpoint. Not 9 to noon has stated this before, and we're not going to pretend that we've watched Caleb Banks play myriad games. There are comparisons that we shared last night that we've heard up to the draft pick. Some high-end comparisons would be the likes of Chris Jones for the Kansas City Chiefs. Ben Lieber on the draft show last night compared him to former Bear Akeem Hicks, and this is all under the assumption that medically speaking, from a foot terrorism standpoint, everything works out. Texting with some people in the know about Banks last night. There was one word that was a common thread, and it was beast. That he just has some beast mode to him. He should be at the facility today. Look forward to meeting him if indeed I get that opportunity. The Minnesota Vikings went to envelope pushing last night. They pushed the envelope a little bit with this pick, and it has some home run swing to it, where you're swinging for the fences with a guy like this, given his medicals, and that's about the only fair way to put it.
Yeah.
But and I've said this before, it doesn't happen often. But what I really, from a fan standpoint, and we're going to take Talkbacks in the next segment, free iHeartRadio app, whether it's Caleb Banks or the beatdown of the Denver Nuggets, which was incredibly impressive last night. Free iHeartRadio app, find the microphone, leave a talkback, and we'll rattle off as many as we can during the course of the radio show today. But it's the proverbial line has been drawn in the sand. I would call it a line of delineation, where with Banks, 1, 2, 3 years from now, it's going to be pretty easy to figure out whether the pick was good or bad. I mean, are the injury situations perpetually keeping him down, in and out, stuff like that? The team obviously believes the answer to that is no. On the other side of it, if the answer is no, then it's clear in league circles that you have housed a defensive tackle who can absolutely wreak havoc against the run, and whether he's double teamed or whether you put him out as a defensive end in a 3-4, he has position flexibility, which Brian Flores loves, and he's just a creature on the defensive line who requires double teams, and he beats them, and he's strong, and he pushes guys around. So fortifying the defensive line, fortifying teams from the trenches, as they like to say. Donovan Jackson last year with the 24th overall pick in the draft, starting left guard, and now a defensive tackle this year with 3 more picks slated for today to get you to 4 in the top 100. I mentioned yesterday, I believe it's very important to the Minnesota Vikings to have at least 4 picks in the top 100, and for 3 or 4 of those guys to contribute and or play this year. And that would be antithetical to the way X amount of drafts have gone over the last X amount of years. So Banks and that beat down at Target Center, talkbacks are there for you. Here comes Mad Producer. Good morning, Banks on a beat down.
Yeah, good morning. Send those talkbacks. Send those talkbacks to the free iHeartRadio app. Hit the microphone. Give us up to your best 30 seconds. Next segment, we are going to play them and react in mass. And yep. I expect good times and question times as it pertains to the talkbacks.
We'll take them all.
Good times loving no Aaron Gordon in the mix last night. Jokic, the Wolves are straight up putting Jokic on an awful performance in this entire series. Yeah. He was shooting into the mist last night. Gets himself to the line. He's still MVP, so we're not counting him out. But the way this series turned last night was a beautiful thing. And then certainly the polarizing reactions to that home run swing that you're talking about, PA.
Yeah, and that's my take. I mean, the team may not look at it like that, but I mean, yeah, like I said last night up to 18. Be Kenyon Sadiq, where'd he go? Like 2 in front of the Vikings?
He went 16 to the Jets. Yeah.
So in laying out what I believe to be the analysis of 3 players.
Man, pick 18 was going to be weird until they took Sadiq, huh?
Dylan Thieneman, the safety from Oregon who went to the Bears, that had some safe pick to it. Yeah. It's like you can take him and he'll fit, and the communicative nature of Thieneman on the back end for a tricky, complicated defense. Yeah. And he's young and he's a good player and he's improving. That made sense. Kenyon Sadiq seemed like a luxury pick for the Minnesota Vikings, who have a couple of tight ends. They play a lot. They have Jefferson and Addison too, but it's not like Sadiq wouldn't have fit in here. It had some luxury to it. Then you get to the high risk or risk. I don't know if it's a high risk, but there is.
Well, on the outside, we look at it that way.
Right. Yeah. From the outside, it could be looked at high risk, high reward. And it has some home run swing to it, at least in my estimation. The selecting of Caleb Banks, and they went the way of swinging the stick, trying to hit one 500 feet. And good morning.
Good morning. So the team, and I'm excited to hear how people are reacting to this morning, because the implications of it, you mentioned the team vying for 3 or 4 guys in the first 2 days of this draft that can compete and contribute minute 1, week 1, game 1 of the 2026 season. There are going to be a lot of people who say this selection flies in the face of that because of the risk, because of the plays week 1, I think, of the 2025 season. There's a foot injury, comes back, gets healthy, plays the final 2. Senior Bowl, as you mentioned. Okay, things are on the up and up, and fractures, one of his toes potentially at the combine. So there are going to be some people that say, well, if you want 3-4 guys to be ready to play and make a difference in 2026, the very first guy you take after a year riddled with injuries, after a year of unknowns from a health standpoint with multiple players, from the quarterback to the offensive line to some defensive playmakers, the very first guy that you take in the draft is somebody that you required having the best foot specialist in the country to sign off on. So we're kind of living with 2 worlds in front of us. It's people like me on the outside love this team, want them to win every game.
Yeah, me too.
Feels like a super high risk. And then inside the building we are currently doing our show from, in that bit, somebody down the hall has to be 100% confident. And if they're listening to this right now, they're like, yeah, it is not a home run swing for us.
Yeah.
It is a steal of the draft.
Yeah, that's a very good way to look at it.
Because based on how we see things with the information we have,
Thank you.
we believe that the Chiefs in the top 10 last night are taking this guy as the future Chris Jones. And we would never have had a shot at him at pick 18 if this foot thing wasn't a conversation talker. Yeah. So you guys are worried about it on the outside. Right. We in the halls of TCO, we couldn't be happier that we got the Gator at a value. Mm-hmm. And when he is ready to ramp up, look out. Get your tickets for training camp right now. So we're living in two worlds on the outside without the information, and we're in the building where somewhere the information has clearly led to the confidence that led to the selection.
That was beautifully laid out. And Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, he joined our draft party radio show last night shortly after Caleb Banks became the 18th overall pick in the 2026 draft. And here's what the conversation sounded like with KO.
Hey, KO, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, guys? How are you? How is everybody there tonight?
Oh, great. I mean, Caleb Banks, the defensive lineman from Florida, place erupted. You know, they're showing highlights here and everything. 6'6", 327. Put him with Jalen Redmond. Holy cow, what do you love about him?
Yeah, this was a guy that... we really identified early on in the process off of not only Brian Flores but Ryan Nielsen, our D-line coach, our scouts. Just from a pure talent standpoint, we really felt like this. We were able to select a player at the with the 18th selection that in many cases, if he was able to. Play a full season last year, maybe he's probably looking at being a top 10 pick. So when you have an opportunity to get this kind of talent, infuse that into the front, which is something that we want to continue to strive to do, is build along the line of scrimmages, build, with a chance to really get a difference maker, alongside a guy like Jalen Redmond, who's really come on for us. We have some other really good young players in that room. And I know, anytime we select a defensive player and our defensive coordinator's the happiest guy in the room, that makes me feel really good, and we're really excited to bring Caleb Banks to Minnesota.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Hey, Coach Ben Lieber here. Congratulations on the pick. What's up, man? It sounds a little bit of relief and obviously happiness in your voice, and we're all very happy here because we do believe in the same thing that you believe in, and just building through the trenches. I think the big question mark, obviously, that had to be answered, and everybody was talking about it just days before the draft, was the health of his foot, the foot surgery. What goes into that as you guys look at the process with Tyler Williams and his staff, and what ultimately lets you guys believe and have faith and confidence that that foot issue is not going to be a continuing issue?
Yeah, it goes, obviously through the process of, the combine, and then obviously we hosted him on a 30 visit here, at TCO PC, and through that whole process we get to really dive into the medical aspect of things and knowing exactly where he is, where he projects for not only the off season, but to make sure we can get him to have a great training camp and roll on into the season and have a high amount of impact for us in 2026 and beyond. Look, we've got some of the best doctors, surgeons and doctors that a lot of people from around the league come to Minnesota to see, specifically, when it comes to, the injury that Caleb had. We were able to get a lot of clarity, a lot of understanding of not only what this looks like in the short term, but what this does look like for the long term as well. And we feel very confident that, we selected what we believe to be a top 10 type talent with that kind of upside. And we feel good about the medical side of things and can't wait to get Caleb here.
Coach Pete Bursich here. Looking at Caleb Banks and when his career started in high school, you realize he started out as a wide receiver and then moved to quarterback and then to tight end. Knowing he's that athletic, any thoughts on maybe using this guy in a goal line situation? But I guess I point that out to point he's a freakishly athletic guy for someone his size.
Well, Pete, where I'm sitting right now is just inside my office, and I can see into the draft room and across the hall and see Brian Flores. So I don't want to answer that question with honesty at this moment, because yes, the answer is yes. He's got the athleticism to do a lot of things, but you know what? He's got the athleticism to do is wreck the pocket. Provide, be a real difference maker. Look, our scheme presents a lot of challenges to people. You got to really worry about pressures, blitzes, all the things that Flo and those guys on defense do to you from a game plan perspective. We feel like now we have the potential to, have just added a player that you better worry about as well as he grows throughout his early part of his career as really being a difference maker along that interior. We feel like his ceiling is, as high as many of the players that have been picked before him in this draft. And I can't wait to watch Flo and those guys go to work, with Caleb and coach him hard to help us reach his truest potential. And they've done great things on that side of the ball, and can't wait to see them go to work with this player. And also really excited about having a guy like Ryan Nielsen, as experienced as he is coaching the D-line. The things he's been able to do with players just like Caleb throughout his career, and then ultimately the excitement when you're coaches that are that experienced and that many things as far as players they've developed throughout their careers, when they're that excited about a player. And then I'm watching the tape from the perspective of how would we block this guy week in and week out. That makes me feel really, really good. And I know more than likely, specifically in the NFC North, when that name went up on the board, I know people that we're going to play against twice a year, they've got to think about some things now.
All right, last one for the head coach, Kevin O'Connell. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, looking at his size and everything like that, and knowing that he's more of an interior guy. Any thoughts on allowing him to move up and down the defensive front? Like, how much position flexibility do you think that he has? Even though he's a big body guy, he's very athletic, but do you see him as just an interior defensive lineman or a guy that can go up and down?
Yeah, I think, when you're looking at whether you're talking about base defense, Ben, that there's particularly the nose, there's a 3 technique, there could be a 5 technique, or a defensive end type position where you might have Andrew Van Ginkel or Jonathan Grenard or Dallas Turner standing outside of these guys in those base structures. We think he can play all 3 spots. We think he can be incredibly impactful in the sub defense, at that 3 technique, really as a pass rushing impact guy that also has proven to be an elite run defender early in downs. We just, the word that's going to come up a lot is just consistency. And as we get him as much reps as possible, and the development that I think is going to take place on the grass, every single day we get to work with him, you're drafting such a talented player at 6'6", 327, that moves the way he does, the quick twitch that he has, the violence that he plays with. The sky is the limit from a versatility standpoint, but also just maximizing who and what he is as a player. And quite honestly, just throughout the process, the more and more we got to know the player, it's one of those classic cases of he got a chance to come here on the 30 visit, spend a day and a half here with us, and by the time he went to leave, you had that feeling like this player really, really wants to be a Minnesota Viking and play in Brian Flores' defense, and we were able to make that happen tonight.
Coach, best of luck with the rest of the draft. Thank you very much for the time, and God bless you and your family. Have a good evening.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me.
That is Kevin O'Connell, right after the Minnesota Vikings selected Caleb Banks last night. He's part of the tale today, 9 to noon, of what's known as Banks and a beatdown. The beatdown took place at Target Center. Some quick twitch thoughts on that and your talkbacks on the first round of the NFL draft and that Wolves beatdown of the Denver Nuggets last night around the corner. That's all courtesy of TimberTech and TimberTech.com. That's what's on deck, 9 to noon. And don't forget, in the final hour of the radio show, acting general manager for the Minnesota Vikings, Rob Brzezinski, should be joining 9 to noon. It's a Brett Blakemore production from FM 100.3 KFAN, and that's good news for Nordo and yours truly, but it's better news for you because he has the cash thing. Good morning, Double B.
Good morning, PA. The cash thing, the fan, and BigDeck.com. I'm going to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with a national cash contest. Head to KFAN.com. Keyword is media. Keyword is media. KFAN.com. Keyword media. The radio home of Minnesota sports is also on YouTube. You can check out the KFAN YouTube channel for exclusive videos, in-depth takes, initials, password games, and behind-the-scenes content. Search KFAN on YouTube and hit subscribe today.
All right, Caleb Banks and that beatdown of the Denver Nuggets and your talkbacks. A couple of quick hitters here on the Timberwolves last night after the KFAN draft show from the palatial Purple Paradise. Zipped home. Timberwolves were up 17 in the second quarter, and it was really a 17, 18, 20, 21 point lead majority of the way. Denver offered no challenge to the Minnesota Timberwolves last night. Nordo mentioned it earlier. Aaron Gordon was a late omission for David Adelman's team, and that's key because the Nuggets played 45-50-ish this year without Aaron Gordon, and they're a completely different team when he doesn't play. He's part of their MV3 with Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. Jaden McDaniels may have won this series for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And here's what I mean. It's when he savaged everything that is Denver Nuggets defense by name, what that is going to trigger behind the scenes, at least it's my belief, because I've seen stuff like that in pro sports before, is when somebody goes out of body the way he did by naming names, we just have to take advantage of their bad defenders. Joker, Jamal Murray, Cam Johnson, Aaron Gordon. He named them all. When you do that and it captures the imagination of the nation, your teammates may not say it to you, but it's going to be, dog, we can't let Jaden down. I mean, after he does that and says that, that's going to galvanize everybody around him to make sure they give whatever extra they have to not let him down because he put himself out there. Now, Jaden also knows that league contemporaries, other players, cohorts within the National Basketball Association, they're going to be like, all right, I'm going to be watching. Let's see what happens. And then he puts Jamal Murray in a straitjacket. I mean, the defense on Jamal Murray last night is as good as anybody has ever seen Jaden McDaniels play. And quite honestly, given the implications of the scenario being of the postseason variety, these games are big. So to say Jaden McDaniels had the biggest spot of his career last night and he came through, I don't think that would be inaccurate. No. He put Jamal Murray in a freaking straitjacket and did so without fouling. So Jaden McDaniels, man, he really has played into the series, tilting the way of the Minnesota Timberwolves. They were bullies last night. They were expressionless when they were hitting threes and shutting down overmatched Nuggets and dunking on humanity. They were expressionless. It wasn't a lot of pointing at the bench. It wasn't like a lot of trash talking or barking. They were cold-blooded. They were just calculated, cold-blooded, expressionless, and all business last night. Very, very impressive to watch. The expressionless nature, they were like hitmen, and they had a job to do. And at the end of the equation, there was like a fat envelope waiting for all of them at their lockers. Obviously, that's imagery and metaphor, but nevertheless, the expressionless nature of the cold-blooded approach to Finchie's team last night was just very, very impressive. Then we have Caleb Banks, 6'6", 327, Florida, 18th overall pick by the Minnesota Vikings. Talkbacks on Banks or the beatdown up to Roachy, Alan Roach, the Vox of all Voxes, ever to Vox, and the voice of U.S. Bank Stadium. He'll be joining us within the next 15 minutes from Pittsburgh. He's the voice of the NFL draft, and it seemed to be quite the festive scene. Nordo and yours truly, Paul Allen, at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, here at the Vikings Entertainment Network, vast and ever expanding as it is. And acting general manager for the team, Rob Brzezinski, will be joining the radio program sometime in the final hour. Let's roll with some talkbacks and see what's up.
PA Nordo, hey, it's Mike from Tampa. Just calling in to say it could be an absolute home run or a complete bust. I'm a huge Gators fan. Caleb Banks is beast mode when he can play, but for a guy that's 6'6", 327 pounds, can he stay healthy? And if he can't stay healthy, it's an absolute waste of a first-round draft pick. hopefully those doctors know exactly what they're talking about. Have a great day. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thanks for the nice call. Thanks for the talk back. I think it's fair how he laid it out. I also think it's fair how Nordo laid it out in the open. And I wasn't really seeing it that way. Why? Because every sporting event we have these days goes to 1:30 in the morning. And then we had a big draft show with thousands of people, and it's overstimulating for your announcer. And paraphrasing the way Nordo put it is that the team, the team how did you put it when it comes to the team has to see it a different way?
Well, yeah, I just think we're in two worlds from an information standpoint.
That's what it was.
Me as an outsider, me as a rube, I'm seeing this as that home run swing. That if he's healthy, he's going to show out, and we're going to start talking about, could he be that Akeem Hicks? Could he be? High-end example of a Chris Jones. So, but then if it goes the other way, it's a complete disaster. It's total malaise. And it is, as that talkbacker mentioned, it's a waste of a pick. So those are the emotions. I'm not sitting here in any, on a throne of superiority where I'm going to tell fans how to think. I'm like you, man. Into the draft, I'm thinking about it. It's like, wow, if he's healthy, he's a game changer, but I am skeptical. There is risk. That's where we live. That's where we live. On the other side of it, in this building, down the hall somewhere, they had to be 100% confident via all the medical checks, all the intel that they're getting from specialists and doctors to make that selection. And they're sitting down the hall. They have to be believing that if this foot thing is right, which they just spent an 18th overall pick on him, so they think the foot thing's okay, that they got the steal of the draft. That's the other side of it, where with the information that they have, that's what they believe. And on the outside, I have to believe that that's how they see it, because in that vein, the high risk, high reward way that we see it, they're sitting there, it would have been cool to maybe trade back, but you saw Peter Woods go late, and, maybe somebody else has a super positive, optimistic opinion on this. Maybe they get sniped. And so versus what happened with the Steelers last night and Mekhi Lemon,
crazy.
We're just going to chill at 18. We're going to take this guy. We believe in the information, and we're super pumped to have this guy in the building. So again, it's the two worlds that exist there, and I anticipate a ton of fans are skeptical, and then they have the right to be, and it'll be proven out, thankfully, in probably pretty short order.
Edina's Nate Tice, Mike Tice's son. He is an elite film watching mind. He does a lot of good work for Yahoo Sports and NFL Network. He, after the Vikings selected Caleb Banks a couple of hours after, he tweeted at Nate_Tice. We have mocked defensive tackle to the Vikings constantly throughout this process, including Banks. Makes so much sense for the Vikings to add legit talent to their interior defensive line. Flores has needed a real needle mover that he doesn't have to scheme up. And Banks has as much upside as any player in the draft. Now, see, that right there, former quarterback of Wisconsin, grew up in a football family. Mike Tice, former head coach for the Minnesota Vikings. He doesn't even include any injury-related prattle with that tweet, because when you come at it from the inside, that's how they look at it. Right. And it's akin to the alternate universe that you discussed, where he's like, I had this guy mocked to the Vikings at 18 in one of my mocks, and they're adding legit talent to the interior of their defensive line. Flores needed this and got it. So there's just the inside the game assumption via the discernment of a medical draft. And that's what last night was, that they have all their proverbial ducks in a row. And they, like Nordo said, they obviously believe they do too, or they're not going to use incredibly valuable currency on something that they feel even is a high risk, meshing with a high reward. So that was an interesting tweet. Talkbacks.
Good morning, Tim in the West Metro. Typical Vikings. Just typical Vikings. Yeah, there's a potential for upside, but you got a 300+ pound guy with multiple years of foot problems, and you've got holes everywhere else. Good grief. Take a better position player and live with it.
Only time will tell, Davey, to see if Banks, if and or when Banks comes through and pushes through whatever concerns the fans are having right now, and that was voiced pretty strongly. Dylan Thieneman, the safety from Oregon, I believe absolutely was an option for the Vikings at 18. He went 7 picks later in that elongated Monday mock that I did.
And fun thing, by the way, now we're going to get to see Thieneman play out too.
Right.
So there's a couple angles here. We're going to get to see Thieneman twice a year for the next several years and get a feel for how he could have looked in purple potentially.
I put Thieneman to the Vikings weeks ago, and I put Caleb Banks to the Chicago Bears at 25. So, at least for my taste, knowing about the foot situations, but also knowing about the player, I had him absolutely going in the first round. It just happened to be pick number 25, which isn't far from 18. Talkbacks.
Well, let me. I want to hit you with something after we play this talkback here.
Yep.
Hi, Peter from Elk River. Contrary to what everyone's been saying about this pick, I think it's a great idea. Go for the high upside guys. Go for the guys that are going to be game changers and that you can build your team around. Yeah, I mean, I was hoping that we were going to trade back and acquire picks because we have a lot of holes, but that's the whole point, though, right? You want to have the guys that are actually capable of playing and playing well in this league.
Thank you, Peter. It's a gangster move. I mean, it's an aggressive move because it's not saying to make this move you have to jettison or overly care about what media or public opinion or dissecting would be of it. Because I'm in the camp where, if you start letting things that you follow on social media or media members, just the noise, the smoke, so to speak. If that in any way influences an opinion a compensated general manager or head coach are making,
that's a problem.
Well, then they're in the wrong profession.
Yeah.
Because it has to be elevator music, whether it's good and you're 15-0 or you make a draft pick like last night, in one ear and out the other. But when I say it's a gangster move, the safe pick would have been Dylan Thieneman, safety from Oregon.
Yes.
The swing for somebody you clearly believe helps your team in a spot where you have a need, and the upside and the potential of what you're going to get is greater than taking the safe pick, then I like that approach.
Yeah.
I like the line in the sand, the line of delineation where you can kind of figure out, the foot continues to be a problem. This continues to be a problem. Or, wow, boy, they really nailed that. This guy's unbelievable. And turns out that this situation that was vetted out 10 of 10 is really of no concern. Clearly, they sway the way of the latter.
They do. Two things for me, and then I believe we got a pause for Roach.
Yeah, we got Roachy.
He said it was hoping that they could trade back and get more picks. And via the text line, keep them coming. If I don't get a chance to, I've been doing some just interacting there. But the idea is just, well, they made a mistake because they didn't trade back. And the only thing I'll say is, the way we look at that so flippantly sometimes is that it was just so easy to trade back. Yeah. Going back to 2022, the Vikings, it looked easy to trade back because we got fleeced on the freaking trade.
Yeah.
There's another element to this too, and this is pure speculation because I'm a rube and an adult man-child. You mentioned this. There was a ton of steam about defensive tackle being at the Bears at 25. What if they move back and don't get Banks? Because not selecting Thieneman at 18, how did that potentially change what other teams later in the first round were going to do?
Yeah.
We aren't the only team here in the NFL with medical staffs. We aren't the only teams that were interested in a Caleb Banks. We weren't the only ones that did medical checks and those sorts of things. So in the end, if they didn't get the deal that they wanted, and if there was worries about snipeability, it's not just as easy as, hey, just jump back to where the Texans are picking and you'll still get your guy.
Ask the Rams. I'm telling you right now, the Rams. Ty Simpson at 13. Nobody was taking him 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. He wasn't getting taken by any of those teams. So are we to believe a Super Bowl winning general manager just said, bleep it. You know what? There's 8 minutes between each pick. This thing's flowing so nicely. We don't want to mess it up for everybody.
Yeah.
Let's just take him here.
No.
Of course not. They tried
7
hard.
minutes and 59 seconds they tried to add equity and still get their pick.
And kept getting shut down, I would imagine. So that's just how it works, man.
And then secondly, lastly, I've also been seeing a ton of this. Bleacher Report grades the pick in F. XYZ analyst. Hey.
An F, you say?
PA, you just found, it's nice of you to read a quote from Nate Tice, of course, but everyone else is just bashing this selection.
Not Todd McShay. I mean, I could read that later.
First of all, the same people at Bleacher Report, I assume, were telling us in 2022 how cool it was that they were able to trade back and get value with a safety in Lewis Cine. The same analysts were lauding the Vikings, not just home run swings like last night, hitting true bona fide home runs last spring during the free agency period.
I didn't know
so
that.
whether it's mock draft madness, it's free agent fodder, any of these periods, in the end, this is all projections. And so I don't need Nookie Blanky to sleep at night because Bleacher Report gave us a B+ on the selection. In the end, this is a prove-it situation. So be skeptical, be frustrated, be mad that they couldn't trade back or it didn't work out the way you wanted. That's all good. But who cares what the site said? It's all going to play itself out on the field, and we're sitting here today. I'm pumped because I want the good part to work out. I'm not trying to will, man, I really wanted Thieneman, so I hope this Caleb Banks thing fails so that my original opinion was right. I want Caleb Banks to be healthy and have an awesome kick-ass career in purple. But it needs to happen on the field. So it's a prove-it situation, and we gotta be patient in that regard. And the Bleacher Reports of the world, the analysts of the world, they're right and wrong about this stuff as often, if not more so than anybody else. So who cares what they say? We got our guy, and now it needs to work. Now it needs to work.
You're listening to 9 to Noon from the Minnesota Vikings facility in Eagan, Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, and we'll be back right after this. Roach, the Vox of all Voxes ever to Vox, voice of U.S. Bank Stadium, Ball Arena for Avalanche games, NFL Europe, and just so much more. And also of the NFL Draft, which was in Pittsburgh. It is in Pittsburgh. And we heard Alan last night on television monitors doing the Vox of all Voxes ever to Vox work. And he joins us now. Alan, it's Paul Allen. Good morning.
Good morning, PA.
Vox, you know you're a card-carrying family member of the 9 to Noon Covenant when the fill-in producer, Brett Blakemore, who's back at KFAN, Nordo and I are at the Vikings facility in Eagan, right next to the Omni, so you're very familiar with that area. You know you're a card-carrying member of the Love Covenant family when Blakemore calls you and says, "Hey, Roachy, how you doing?" He's calling you Roachy.
I was surprised to hear Double B call this morning. I forgot you guys were out at the facility, so very, very grateful for having a chance to talk to you. Thanks for having me on.
Likewise, and you were omnipresent last night, not the first time. I mean, whether it's DIA, Denver International Airport, the white zone is for loading and unloading only, or U.S. Bank Stadium last night for the draft party show. We heard your voice a million times there, and in Pittsburgh at the NFL Draft, and watching it without hearing it in the stadium. Massive crowd. It looked like a wonderful event. What'd you think?
Yeah, they announced, a record 320,000. I have no idea how they decide that. I mean, there's no turnstiles anywhere, so I don't know, they count them with a helicopter or with the drone or do math, how many people per square feet. Yeah, there was a ton of people there last night, and I think probably the goal of the NFL is to make every draft every year a little bit bigger than the draft the year before. And when the NFL's doing the counting, they've been successful at that now probably 8 years in a row.
When you vox the draft, the on-site public address announcing voice of the draft, like what goes into it? What do you do?
Last night, actually, of all the events I do, not just NFL, but every event anywhere in the world, last night's probably my easiest night. I say, hey, fans, welcome. To scan the QR code and take a picture of yourself. We'll get you on the big board. Here's the national anthem. And now it's time to start the draft. And then I sit there for the rest of the night. And at the end, I say, thank you for coming. Good night. So day one of the draft for me is very easy. I don't do anything at all from the time the commissioner says the Raiders are on the clock until pick 32. But now for the next 2 days, I'm very busy. Tonight, all of the picks are made by legends. So, you know, Barry Sanders does the Lions pick, and Joe Green does the Steelers pick, and on and on. And I announce each one of those legends as they come out on stage. And then tomorrow, day 3, is, you know, a dog and pony show circus in a good way. There's picks, you know, made by the Miami Dolphin at SeaWorld, and, you know, pick made in Mexico at the top of a mountain, and all of that kind of stuff.
That's unique. That sounds fantastic. Alan Roach, Vox of all Voxes ever to Vox, voice of U.S. Bank Stadium for Vikings games. Card-carrying member of the Love Covenant, another family member of ours, former Wild goaltender Alex Stalock has texted me, and he was analyzing a Wild Avalanche game month and change, couple of months ago at Ball Arena, and I think he met you in an elevator. So Alex Stalock says hello to you, Vox.
That was very exciting to meet Alex Stalock. I remember talking with him at the Avs game, and I certainly hope that the Wild get back on their feet, because there's, you know, nothing I've wished for ever since the first 2 weeks of the season when both these teams looked pretty good, or I maybe took an extra week for the Wild to get there. But once they looked like two of the best teams in the league, I so wanted to see them meet in the playoffs. And, you know, I'm pulling for the Wild very hard over the course of the next 10 days.
Yeah.
But then after that, I'm guessing it may change.
Yeah, likewise. And Alan is the voice of Ball Arena for Avalanche games. And his Avs are up 3-0 on the LA Kings. And those first 2 games, man, that you voxed at Ball Arena, at least one of them for sure, tightly contested games. It was interesting last night, and you probably didn't get a chance to watch much of any of it. But Nathan McKinnon, he had 0 shots last night, and they still put up four goals. So the Kings, which I thought was kind of a tricky matchup. I mean, I would never grandstand and say that Kempe and Kopitar and Doughty and Kemper and those guys are going to beat the heavily favored Avalanche. But those first 2 games were meat grinders. They're doing a good job on McKinnon. He had no shots last night, and they still won. You're up 3-0, so you're going to advance. But what do you think about all that?
I thought the LA Kings played, and I don't watch the LA Kings play on a regular basis, but I thought the Kings played, you know, the best they could. 2 of their best games of the season in games 1 and 2 in Ball Arena, and they lost both of those games. And that bodes very well for the Avalanche, obviously. And then last night, I don't know, you started to see, I guess, especially when the Avs got ahead by a goal or 2, that maybe there was a little bit of down on the LA Kings bench, and, you know, now they're down 3-0. You've talked to the players. They're obviously going to say, hey, we're not over till it's over. But, you know, I think everybody thinks that series is now over. And as far as Nathan McKinnon, I did see a stat on TV last night. I got to watch the third that, you know, he's one of the top 5 players in history in points per game in the playoffs. And that number has been way down this year. And what a credit to the rest of the Avalanche for when our superstar is being bottled up, we're still able to win and go up in a series 3-0. I think this Avalanche team is very, very good.
Alan Roach, and it's at Mile High Roach via X. He's in Pittsburgh for rounds 1 through 7 of the NFL draft. So we'll be hearing him on TV tonight with rounds 2 and 3. Vikings currently have 3 picks, and at 18 last night, they take defensive lineman Caleb Banks from Florida. Did it surprise you in any way? And what do you think of Caleb Banks? Because you're a Vikings fan at heart.
It surprised me because I couldn't believe the percentage of mock drafts in the world that had put Dylan Thieneman with the Vikings. I mean, in past years, if you looked at 20 mock drafts, you maybe saw, 12 or 14 different players slotted to the Vikings at wherever it was they were going to pick. Well, about 18 out of 20 mock drafts this year had Dylan Thieneman. And so then when, it wasn't Dylan, it was Caleb, it was a surprise. But, I heard you guys talking in the last segment, and great job to Nordo saying, people immediately go online and Google, oh, who's Caleb Banks? Oh, man, he was ranked as the number 34 pick. Oh, he's got a bad foot. Oh, we took Caleb Banks too early. Who knows all of this? I mean, nobody knows all of this. And like you said, there's a lot of people that are paid a lot of money and are in their position because they've had a lot of success and made a lot of right decisions. Could it be wrong? Absolutely. Could Caleb Banks be a guy that 9 years from now we talk about as, another face on the Mount Rushmore of purple people eaters? Yes. So let it play out. And, there were some people that are pretty smart that made that decision.
Amen. So when we start playing games in September for the 2026 season, home games, is Caleb Banks a good name for a Vox?
It's funny. I had a couple people text me about that last night. What I don't like about it is his first name ends with a B and his last name starts with a B. So if you sit down tonight and figure out, okay, how would I announce Caleb Banks and be excited? It's hard to say Caleb Banks and pronounce both those B's. So you're kind of going to run into a 1B thing, Caleb Banks.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's easy. It's easy, but there's not a lot of pizzazz to that name, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah, that Vox problems 9 to noon. I mean, that's terrific the way you laid that out. Do you prefer R's in names? So like old school Brian Robinson. Do you like R's?
Yes, love because you can get a little growl in there. Robinson.
Oh,
yeah,
that's terrific,
love the R's.
Man.
The worst one is when a name ends with an S and starts with an S. That's the hardest one, I think.
Why?
Well, because you get just way too much snake sound in there. I can't, Russ Simpson. Russ. There's too much going on.
Yeah. Have a great time tonight and have a great time tomorrow. We'll be listening to you, and we'll do a Covenant catch-up hopefully soon if the Wild can get itself right in this series against Dallas and beat the Stars and hook Roachie's abs. And that would be just a ton of fun. Be a chance at 9 to noon. Brings all or some of the radio show to the Mile High region, and maybe we can do some work together there. Thank you very much, my brother, and thank you for the time. I know you got a lot going on right now, but have a good time the next 2 days. Okay.
Yep, 9 to noon, invited to do your show from my deck at my house every day that you come out for the playoffs. And Minneapolis, by the way, is one of the front runners for the 2028 NFL draft. So let's
the
hope
Vikings,
that can get done as well.
Yeah, Vikings had a bunch of heavy hitters in Pittsburgh. You probably saw, or shook hands or fist bumped some of them, but they were scouting that thing out in case Minneapolis and in case Minnesota gets the draft in 2028. But hold on, you just opened Pandora's box with Pandora ', all caps. So if 9 to noon, and he's by Red Rocks. So, I mean, now we got
come on.
We got to check the shows at Red Rocks.
Yep.
Daughter lives about 25 minutes from there, so that's in play.
Okay.
Beloved Coley. But, like, if we did the show from his deck, 8 in the morning to like 11, well, like, what do we need? Like, the Wi-Fi have to be, like, what do we need?
Yeah, well, we'll verify all the technical specifications.
Let's go
later,
wild.
But imagining some of the work that he's done at his house over the course of time.
Amen.
I feel like the internet's working, so we should be fine there. No phone or television used during the show, just to be safe, Alan.
That's great.
And we're going to hold you to that. So shows on your deck now. If the draft comes to Minneapolis, brisket on my deck for you when that time comes. That's the trade.
That's awesome.
This was a very productive phone call today. By the way, my Wi-Fi name, you get to name whatever it is. My Wi-Fi name is Valhalla.
Vikings heaven, Valhalla. Love you very much, bud. Have a good weekend, and go wild because the Avs are going to advance. And we will talk to you soon, okay?
All right. Thank you very much, guys.
Yep, see you. Alan Roach. The Vox of all Voxes ever to Vox, and the voice of U.S. Bank Stadium, number whatever, Caleb Banks. Can't wait to hear that, and can't wait to hear from the analyst, Pete Bursich, to chat about banks and more around the corner. You're listening to the 9 to Noon radio show on KFAN.